Councillor Wheat? Councillor Wheat has an addition. I bet you want to put it right 9A.
9A, yeah.
Okay.
When you're reviewing council appointments to different boards, if there's someone around this table, you got an hour to think about it till we get there. I will gladly withdraw my name from library board if somebody else wants it.
Thank you. Any other additions to the agenda? Seeing none, approval of the agenda, I have it. Councillor Gatward?
I may also have one after 9A, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, when will you know, Councillor Gatwood? When will you know whether you have one or not?
What do I have?
When will you know whether you have one or not?
At 9A.
Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interests. Seeing none, we'll move on to delegations. And we have big brothers, big sisters. Come on up. If you could let us know your name and your address, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Pollard. I'm the Executive Director with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Grand Erie. And my personal address, Mayor?
Whatever you like.
The address of our organization is 10 Scott Ave in Paris, Ontario.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with each of you tonight just about our organization. You see on the screen there, it says small act, big impact. And that resonates very much with me. When I actually moved to the city of Brantford in 2009 and 2010 with my husband. And when we moved to that community, one of the values that we hold dear to us is volunteerism. And driving along Brant Ave, I saw the big, then purple sign for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I decided to go in and see how I could be of service. And through joining this organization, I met Mitchell. So that's Mitchell. Mitchell is a resident of Paris. He went to North Ward and then to PDHS. And so we met when he was in grade 5, and Mitchell turned 19 this past Monday and is still a very active part of our lives and our family's life. So you can see the journey of a grade 5 with a duck tattoo all the way up through those last two pictures, or that bottom row is Mitchell was able to attend my husband and our wedding, and he is now Uncle Mitchell to my two children, so Eliana and Harrison. So again, that small act of walking in to that building 9 or 10 years ago has led to a huge impact for myself, my life, and for Mitchell's as well. So just a little bit about who we are as an organization. So the vision for Big Brothers Big Sisters across the country is that all young people realize their potential. And our mission, so how we contribute to making that possible, is by enabling life-changing mentoring relationships to help ignite their power and their potential. And I often ask the question, why does mentoring matter? So why is it important that we have these services in our community? So I just wanted each of you to take some time and think about a mentor that you've had in your life. And actually do it, no blank stares. And think about why it is that you've identified that person. And odds are it's because they've impacted your life in a way that they made you look at something differently, that they made you see something different about yourself, which potentially changed your course or your path in life. It's a big quote, even if you change just one life, you've changed the world forever. And that's a big part of why our services are so critical in community. Some of you may not know that young people who are facing adversity are 2 to 3 times more likely than their peers to reach adulthood without a single mentor. And so for each of you, I'm sure we've had the benefit of not recalling one, but probably multiple individuals in our lives that have made a huge impact. This can be a huge barrier to young people realizing their potential. So that's where we come in, is not all young people have the opportunity to be exposed to adults who are consistent, caring, and will support their development. And so we connect these young people to mentors in our community to help them realize their potential. And the mentors in our community are volunteers, and it's really powerful. This organization is, we're a small organization, a small team of 6, but we mobilize more than 100 volunteers in this community that donate more than 20,000 hours of service. So what is potential? What I love about the word potential is that it describes something that's already there. So often when we think of young people, we often use the terms fixing. And what I love about us and the idea of igniting potential is that we're drawing out something that's already there and just helping them realize that it exists. So the way that we realize potential in our young people are through particular impacts on their life and who they are as people. So one area is social and emotional competence. So this is how we relate to others in our community and how we relate to ourselves. How do we manage ourselves and how do we make decisions? Some of our strongest impacts I'd like to highlight is that young people involved in our program are 20% more likely to volunteer in our communities. And I think I'm speaking to a good audience of people who will believe and understand how that magnifies and creates a ripple effect. They're also more likely to make good life choices. The second pillar of our outcomes are mental health and well-being, and that's something I think that we all know and believe to be important, especially with the cultural climate of today. So do they identify positively with themselves? Do they feel included and empowered in their community? And how is their mental wellness? We've noticed in our programs, our young people are 80% more likely to pursue healthier lifestyles. For girls, they're 4 times less likely to bully, fight, lie, or lose their temper. And boys are 3 times less likely to suffer peer pressure-related anxiety. And what's interesting in talking with our service delivery staff is we're seeing in our young people today who are placement students some of what we noticed to be the issues back when they were part of our programs in the past. And so these outcomes are incredibly important in helping young people realize their potential. The third pillar is educational engagement and employment readiness. So how connected are young people in our community to their school environment, as well as to future employment engagement? We have great, and this is just a sampling of outcomes in this area, but 63% have post-secondary education. They're 17% more likely to be employed. Over the lifetime, they will earn $315,000 more than peers in the same socioeconomic situation and facing the adversity. And they're also 47% more likely to hold senior leadership positions. And again, this is just a sampling. I'm sure you have a long night ahead of you and you don't want to hear all my research. But all this to say that there is research. This is a really great, we all know it feels good and it makes impact. And it's important to talk about this in community, but there's hard evidence that shows that the impact is huge and magnified. So my lesson, because Heather has reminded me I only have 10 minutes, is just driving the point home that mentoring builds communities. And our community is quite large. So we're Big Brothers Big Sisters of Grand Erie. I always have to explain to others across the country that Grand Erie is not a place, it's a school board. But we cover off the same geographic area as the school board does. So we're in Brant County, City of Brantford, Haldimand County, Norfolk County, Six Nations of the Grand River, and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. How we create impact is through our programming, and our programming varies. So everyone will think about the traditional Big Brothers Big Sisters program, but our goal is to create an environment where any young person in Brant County can walk in and feel safe, included, respected, and that we can connect them with an adult that's going to meet their needs and meet them where they are at in their lives. So just to speak to that relationship personally, with Mitchell, I actually started out with in-school mentorship with him at North Ward, and I happened to take a job where I had to commute, and I asked him if he would allow me to be his big sister, and so we transitioned to a big sister relationship, and then beyond there, we saw a huge impact from my husband, Mark, being part of his life, so we converted to a big couple. So really the programming is about how do we best meet those young people where they're at, and how do we grow and change and evolve with them. How we ignite potential specifically. Our organization provides the infrastructure to appropriately recruit the right adults, to make sure that we're connecting the right adult with the right young person. It's not you come in off the street and I will match you with a young person who's next in line. We really look at their needs, their personalities, their interests, and what will help that relationship flourish. We also provide ongoing support to the individuals involved. So this is the young person, but we often forget their families as well as the volunteers. So we have trained social service support workers and social workers who are supporting that relationship and setting them up for success. We also provide training and support in order to help equip the mentor to support that young person depending on how their journey changes. So where are we going? So 2020 and beyond, we do have a new look. Was anyone familiar with the purple hand-holding icon? Makes sense, Mark. Across the country this year, we've changed our look, and so that is our new logo. The lines actually mean something. So it's all about the power of three. So the 3 lines represent the 3 key components of making our organization successful. So 1 are the families. We have a great privilege to be able to serve these young people, and they're a key portion of why we are able to ignite potential in this community. The second piece is the volunteer. I could say so much about volunteers, but the adults that come to our organization are giving the gift of time, which we all know is precious and scarce. And the final piece is our organization. We provide that safe, supported infrastructure to keep our young people safe while they're realizing their potential. So at the end of the day, what we are doing is ensuring that we're serving the young people who need it the most in the most effective way to help them be their best self and reach their potential. So our hashtag, you may have saw at the beginning, I know there's lots of hashtags for Brant, good times in Brant, Brant awesome. Ours is bigger together. So I just wanted to call out to this community. I'm gonna challenge each of you here today. I know you have a long night ahead, but I still have homework for you, is to help us be bigger together. So the power of 3, I'm gonna ask you to do 3 things. 1 is to thank someone for their mentorship. There are individuals in your life that has made a difference, and I'm sure they would love to hear the acknowledgement, and you empower them to continue on that journey. I'll ask each of you to be a mentor to someone. Mentoring doesn't have to look formal. It means meeting someone where they are and offering to support and help them along with their journey. And the final ask is to come see us. We don't normally dress like that. We were dressing loud for in support of mental health and wellness. But as I mentioned at the beginning, our offices are just a stone's throw away from here. So I would really welcome and encourage any of you to come and see us and get to know the organization better and hear lots more about what we're doing in community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Mark?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you, Melissa, for volunteering in our community for a decade plus before working in our community. Both are appreciated. I guess I have two questions. One, some of that research, could you email it to Heather and then she could maybe send it to the rest of council?
Yes, yeah.
I'd like to look at that, and I'm sure some other folks would. And if you don't, just don't open that email. And the second thing is, are you applying for any of the grants in our grant process this upcoming grant period?
Yeah, we're hoping to apply for funding. We don't have funding from the county as yet, but I think one of the big things I like to focus on is that it's about investment in community and how do we create that ripple effect and amplify our results. So when I send you the research, even if you don't want to read it, the Boston Consulting Group shows that $1 of investment in our programs realizes $23 in social return in the communities that we're a part of. So yes, there are 2 things we need to make this organization work: volunteers and money. So we're happy to come after the latter.
Well, thanks so much. Thank you for the professional and heartfelt presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, and if you said it during your presentation, I apologize. How many kids do you have on your wait list?
No, I did not reference that. So without solicitation, we have over 200 currently. The entire, all of Grand Erie. Yeah, so the mix is usually, historically, it's been 20% is in Brant County. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I just wanted to let the committee know that Melissa was on the board of directors at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they had some troubles, and their executive director quit, or was removed, and so she stepped off the board and took on this position. So she signed up as a board member and ended up here to help them through these hard times, so I think that's a really big deal. Thank you for doing that when you could have just gone with the rest of them and had it disappear, so thank you for hanging on, and thank you for speaking to us tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Riley. Thank you for your time.
Okay. How do you want to handle this? Receive it as information or direct it to grants? All right, seconded. Councillor Pierce, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Number 5, adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. Councillor McAlpine?
Moved by myself and seconded by Robert Chambers, that the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any business arising from the previous minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent items. Councillor Howes?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pierce that the 2020 Council and Committee calendar be tentatively approved as may be amended.
Are there any questions about the scheduling for next year? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed and carried? Thank you. B, Councillor House?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor LaFerrier. The following consent items to be received as information, numbers 1 through 15 inclusive.
Does anyone want anything separated or explained? No? See, Councillor Coleman?
Number 7, B7.
B7? Anybody else? We'll vote on everything but B7. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Coleman, do you want to speak to B7?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been sitting in this chair for December of 2003. And God knows how many times I've harped on one act of the OPP in this county, and that is speeding. So when I read this again the other night, and I look back to what was in this report, in 2018, we had 250 infractions. 2019, in I believe that's October or September, we're down to 78, a drop of 68%. That is the biggest thing I hear in my ward, and I believe everybody hears it in their wards too, is the speeding issue. And I can't understand why this is taking place. It just seems to be, I travel a lot of clicks in a week, and I see different police forces with radar, but I've never seen it here in Brant, not since I got nailed on my own road here a number of years ago. So it used to be there, but I don't see it. And when I was sitting in here since 2003, we used to be at 600 infractions a month. And it gradually keeps dwindling down. There's more people on the road, far more vehicles, and then speeding is a major issue. And I just can't understand it, how it can be down, the infractions are at this level. So I'm very upset with this report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gatward, do you want to speak to number 7?
Well, these minutes were on the agenda for the November council meeting, and they're repeated here again tonight, so they've already been received. As Councillor Coleman has stated in the past, he's had a lot of concerns about speeding, and I do see radar out on our roads. Maybe I travel different roads than he does. I've seen radar on county Road 18 where he lives several times. But maybe he's in the barn or traveling with his cows somewhere and doesn't see them like I see them. I don't know. I know that they do radar, they report on focused patrols, and they had one recently on County Road 18. If there's a major incident in the county, such as the home invasion where there's a lot of police work required, then maybe that particular month they don't have the resources to have officers sitting out doing radar. We've talked about having a traffic officer as an enhancement to our contract, and we chose not to budget for that, but it's my impression that this council still wants that enhanced traffic officer. It's just that there doesn't seem to be the business case established yet to go and ask the province for that extra officer. Other municipalities have the same issue. In Haldeman, they do. But as we all know, the police have priorities. And can they be sitting out doing radar if there's a robbery or an assault that they have to go to? Then there'd be complaints, well, they didn't come to my house because they were busy sitting at the side of the road. What's more important? They have to prioritize their calls, and anybody's welcome to call Inspector Lisa and get more information about the statistics if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gatward. Is there any other discussion on 7? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. Councillor Pierce? No? All those in favor?
We've received it twice now.
Well, then it shouldn't get missed again. That's perfect, thank you. C, consent items to be received. Councillor House? Oh, they were all together? All right. Committee reports then, please. Committee of the Whole, Councillor Coleman.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Pierce, committee of the whole from 2020 budget meeting from November 19th, 27th, December 9th, 2019, budget be approved.
Everyone's clear, we're voting on the acceptance of the budget. Any questions to Councillor Coleman? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Howes, that the Community Service Committee report of December the 2nd be approved, noting there are 2 recommendations.
Any questions to Councillor Pierce? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive? Thank you. Planning Advisory Committee, Councillor Wheat.
Moved by myself, second by Member Bell. Planning Advisory Committee report of December 3rd be approved, noting there are 3 items.
Any questions for Councillor Wheat? Councillor Miller?
Not a question per se, Mr. Mayor, but I would like to add a recommendation after we've dealt with these 3.
Okay. So we'll vote on the 3 that Councillor Wheat has mentioned is included in the report. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Miller?
At planning, we're in that process where we first look at applications for information and then we receive it. And I notice it doesn't, when we receive that information, we don't actually put it on the recommendations. I don't know if we should be doing that or not. However, what I would like to move, Mr. Mayor, if you're okay with it, is that ZBA 37/19, and that's the one at 3 West Harris Road. I would like to move that be referred to the Agriculture Advisory Committee. That is their wheelhouse, and the main contentious issue there is the MDS. So given that the Agriculture Advisory Committee is a creature of the province to deal with planning matters, this seems like an appropriate
We have a seconder,
report.
Councillor Ferrier. Any questions, Councillor Wheat?
No, I'm ready to, as chair, to receive it, and
Okay.
I will comment on it. So you direct me to comment.
I'd like you to comment right now.
You should have brought that
Okay,
All applications are received as information. There's an area on the agenda to direct members to council or to different committees, and there's an opportunity to do that.
Councillor Pierce first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I support Councillor Miller's recommendation in the sense that for this particular one, since the last planning meeting we've had a few emails on this. So I think there's some things that need to be straightened out at it. So I think I would be in support of this, and the information, I don't want to assume here, but there's been information brought to my light since the planning meeting, so I would appreciate this going there for further investigation.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
Just a response to Councillor Wee. Yeah, no, I would have gladly brought it up at planning, except I was in Buffalo at the time, so. And just for further edification for the council, the Ag Advisory is meeting in January, so we won't be delaying it.
Any other questions? Councillor Chambers?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the chairman, I was of the understanding that all applications are circulated to the Agricultural Advisory Committee as a routine course. And if they're not, I'm of the opinion that they should be, because that is part of the statutory public input that we've entrusted the Agricultural Advisory Committee to perform for us.
Councillor Wheat?
Yes, I'll respond to that. All applications are circulated to different departments. I won't specifically say that it went to the Ag Advisory Committee or any application, but all applications are circulated to many different departments throughout the county of Brant.
Councillor Bell?
Mr. Mayor, just following up on Robert Chambers' comment, it was my understanding that under the Planning Act, we have to have a member of the public involved in this process. And I thought our solution to that was that the Agricultural Advisory Committee would serve that purpose. So if they haven't seen it, that's, I think, an oversight. My belief would be that they have seen it, and if they had a comment, they would have given it to us. But maybe staff could advise whether that's the case.
Councillor Wheat?
Yes, I can respond to that. That is correct. As a citizen appointment to the Planning Advisory Committee, that's how the county of Brant handles it, by having an ag advisory committee. That's how that's handled.
Councillor Bell?
Through you to Councillor Wheat, does that mean that the Agricultural Advisory Committee should see it before we see it?
Not necessarily before we see it, but they would see it at some point in time.
Councillor Bell? Oh, Councillor Bell?
So again, through you, so as we get it as a recommendation from staff at the next PAC, we can assume that the Agricultural Committee would see it anyway as a matter of course.
I'm under the understanding that we would.
Thank you.
There's many different agencies throughout the county of Brant, all applications.
Everyone's, oh, Councillor Gatward, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would suggest, and I agree with the suggestion, and I don't think it's far from too late to do it, because Councillor Miller was not at the planning meeting, that we ask the General Manager of Development Services if all applications are circulated to the Ag Advisory Committee, because that question hasn't been answered.
Thank you. Pam?
Thank you. Through the mayor to council. Both Councillor Bell and Councillor Wheat are correct. After the information meeting, they are sent to, in this case, the Agriculture Advisory Committee. If it has something to do with the Tourism Committee, it would be sent there, etc. So they will see it before it is brought back to the statutory public meeting.
So they will get it for the January meeting and consider it then?
That is correct,
Thank
as long
you.
as there is a January meeting. If not, then we will delay it to the February meeting.
And then it would be too late. Thank you.
No, if I can respond to that.
Sure.
Our director said if there isn't a January meeting, there will be no recommendation come forward from planning staff until the Ag Advisory Committee has seen it. There's lots of applications that come forward. They don't necessarily get approved next month. They might not get approved for 6 months until all committees have had an opportunity to comment. And that individual that has emailed, I think most of us, I know I haven't, I did respond. She hasn't got back to me. But that's just like having a comment Many comments are received verbally and written. You all attend a planning meeting, there's people that come and comment during the public portion of a meeting. A lot of people don't necessarily come and comment, but they send in written comments, and those written comments are listed in your package in your application at the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Wheat. Councillor Miller.
I'll just correct something here, and I think Councillor Coleman, you could back me up on this one. The Ag Advisory Committee does not see every application, nor do they need to, but ones with a agricultural implication, I think they should be seeing, and this is one of those ones I think that fit that to a T, so that's why I made the motion that I did.
The director said it will be sent there because it is agricultural related. And if they haven't dealt with it in January before it comes back, they'll deal with it in February, and a recommendation will not be forthcoming from our staff until Ag Advisory has seen it.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Now I'm confused. I thought we went through this about a year ago because I asked a question as a newbie, and I was told that the solution we had to having public input to our planning process, planning advisory process, was that the Agricultural Advisory Committee would serve that purpose. So if they're not doing it, we're out of compliance.
Pam.
Through the mayor to council again. I'm quite new and I don't know the terms of reference for your PAC well, but the way that it works in most municipalities, and I'm assuming that it works the same way here, is it would go to the appropriate committee. So if it has something to do, if a planning application has something to do with heritage, it would go to your heritage. If it has something to do with tourism, it would go to tourism. And in most cases, they do have something to do with the Agriculture Advisory Committee, and that is why they go to your ag. If I am mistaken, and I can confirm that through an email with the clerk tomorrow.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. It may be me that's mistaken, but maybe Robert can advise. I think he's been around longer than me and would know the answer to this question.
Councillor Chambers, you want to step in or do you want to leave it to Councillor Wheat?
I would just, since I was the one that brought it up, I would just request that the staff look into the requirement for public input. I believe there are recommendations passed prior in council designating the Agricultural Committee for somewhat status in order to comply with the provincial requirement for public participation. So I'll leave that up to the staff to clarify.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor? In favor of everything, but your concern was going to be done with the staff report and brought back to committee, council.
You had a motion that needs to.
Oh, did you have a motion?
I did, yes.
All right.
There was a can opener to this can of worms, and that was my motion.
All right, did you have a seconder for your motion? Councillor
yes,
Pierce?
I did.
Councillor Pierce? Oh, okay. Councillor Bell?
Sorry to be a pain in the proverbial, but I don't think we need this motion. I think we've already gone through this in the past. We've already said what the process is, and every application that comes to PAC should go to the Agricultural Advisory Committee, otherwise we are not in compliance with the Planning Act.
I think I have to call on Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know the answer to that question. We can confirm that. It's my understanding that legislation requires the council to appoint a citizen member to a planning advisory committee, and that planning advisory committee has certain duties. I'm not sure whether those duties include the review of every application or just policy issues. So this could be the level of confusion. So we can report back to the next PAC meeting and clarify A, what that legislation says about this planning advisory committee that has a citizen member, B, what amount of business is going there, and then C, what applications that may not be falling into that system, if any, and where they go, and we can clarify all that. And the committee can provide us with further direction at the time. So.
Councillor Ferrier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So no harm will come from us voting for this motion. We will vote. I'm still prepared to support this motion. The worms are open, and I'd like to vote for them to go where they need to go.
Okay.
So
Heather, could you please repeat the motion?
The motion is that application ZBA 3719 for 3 West Terrace Road be referred to the Agricultural Advisory Committee for review.
Everyone's clear what they're voting on? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bell. Thank you. D, Councillor Chambers, Corporate Development.
Just a point of order, did we vote on the
On the motion.
planning committee report itself? We did? Okay. Sorry. Then, Mr. Mayor, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller that the Corporate Development Committee report from December 9th, 2019 be approved.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive? Thank you. Opposed? Public Works, Councillor Gatward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Coleman, that the Public Works Committee report of December 10th be approved.
Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I got a couple questions here. In regards to the Mechanic Street Bridge, it took quite some time for the Mechanic Street Bridge, and I'm just wondering if what the issue was, why did it take so long, and was there any financial penalties per se for it taking as long as it did?
Councillor Gatward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're talking about the
The
footbridge?
footbridge, yeah.
I believe it's completed.
It is, yeah.
But I will ask the general manager to answer those questions.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Pierce. There were some issues with the project as they got it going, is what they found when they took when they started working on the project. This actual project is an interim project in keeping the Mechanic Street Bridge open for longer. Eventually, that bridge will have to be replaced, and as actually part of potentially floodworks improvements in the future will have to be raised.
Raised up, yeah.
So this was an interim project. There's things they found when they got into it that made it take longer. And there were some weather issues as well. And there were no financial penalties.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, were there additional costs for us, or it was all in the?
I don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, if I could, one other one, you may be able to help here, Rob. In regards to in the recommendations for the Biggers Lane landfill, it talks in there that, there was a plan put forward, it was like 855 or something like that, and then there's a quote in there that says, comments that could not be anticipated at the time of the proposal. Like, I'm curious, what changed that's costing an extra $100,000, really?
Through the Mayor to Council. So the RFP for this project was like at least 2 or 3 years ago. And there was a work plan put forward to fulfill the anticipated work from the preliminary study that had been done to work on the new landfill. These most latest requirements of the Ministry of Environment could not have been anticipated when that was done. Okay. These are requests from the staff at the Ministry of Environment in Hamilton, and
okay, so it wasn't a miss per se?
No.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Ferrier.
Through you to Rob, if possible, on the Mechanic Street Bridge. Just 2 questions. One, the dates were moved around with the contractor. That's a normal practice, correct? We have some open dates, and it's not like again, no cost to us, no major issues there. It's like when I call my cable provider and they say sometime on Tuesday they'll come. As long as they come sometime on Tuesday, we're okay?
Through the Mayor to Councillor LaFerriere. Changing dates in the construction world is an everyday business, and this was no different than that.
Awesome, thank you. And my next one here was, are there any other options when we have to close a bridge like that? Because I know the signage was up, but there's still a lot of folks walking up and down, and if it's dangerous and we're liable, is there any way to take other options into account on how we actually close a bridge? I know there'll always be bad apples who will go over whatever we put up, but I don't know if simple signage will work when people are so used to that bridge.
Through the Mayor to Councillor LaFerriere. So I think there's 2 different things here. The signage in this case got put up, and it was signage by the county ahead of time to warn people that this was going to happen, and there's no real issue with them using it in the dates where it wasn't really closed. When the contractor had control of the site, it's up to them to control the site and keep the people out. That's when we have to be worried, because it's a construction site, there's dangerous things there. So, yes, there were some problems with the time of the signage when it wasn't really accurate. The bridge wasn't really closed. The signage was up saying it should be closed, but it really shouldn't have been. And that was our miss on that part.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
Any other questions for Councillor Gatward? Or the, no, staff? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. F, the OPP Detachment Committee, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move by myself, second by Councillor Pierce, that the OPP Detachment Committee report of December 10th, 2019 be approved.
Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could, just a quick comment. We did talk at that meeting in regards to, at that point in time of the meeting, there was no asphalt down on the parking lot, and there is the first coat down on the parking lot now, so that's great news.
That's surprising news. That's great.
I just noticed it day before yesterday myself when I was driving by, so.
That's great. Councillor Gatward.
That, and if I can finish the comment, that will mean that in April, when the furniture arrives, that we'll be able to move into the detachment sooner, which is good news.
Any other comments to Councillor Miller? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. On to number 9, staff reports. Councillor Ferrier.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Howes. 9A, the review of council appointments to committee, that the current appointments of members of council to committees and boards be approved as may be amended by council resolution, and as follows: that Councillor Bell replace Councillor LaFerriere as the representative on the Paris Business Improvement Area, that 1 additional member of council, total of 2 members, be appointed to the Biggers Lane Landfill Liaison Committee, that Andrea Bazard be appointed as a citizen representative on the Biggers Lane Landfill Liaison Committee, and that, would I be moving the library board piece that John brought up? Or?
We'll let John speak to it himself and Joan speak to it herself. Councillor Howes.
I'd like to speak to one as well, please.
All right. Which one? Which board?
Right. No, okay. I'd like to add to the, a motion to this.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to vote on this first, as Councillor Ferrier read it out. Are there any questions? Everyone's clear? All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Councillor Wheat.
While we're talking about appointments to different committees, if there's someone here who wants to be on the library board, I would have no problem removing my name rather than having controversy about it.
Okay, I'm going to turn it.
If there's no one else wants it, I would gladly stay there. But if someone wants it, please step forward, not 2 months from now.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the clerk because she's more familiar with the process. It's an unusual process because usually you would step off the board and leave the position vacant for someone else to step into. So do you want off the board?
It doesn't matter to me, but I don't want controversy 2 or 3 months from now. So I will gladly remove myself then.
Okay, Councillor Weed has just removed himself from the library board. So if the clerk would like to take over the verbiage from here on in, because it's going to get confusing for me.
Okay, so I would suggest the first thing we need to do is probably, we'll do a motion to review the appointments to the library board, because that's the one that's listed. It's only the one appointment at this time that's open. There's 2 appointments in total, but there's one that Councillor Wheat has asked. So I'd ask for a motion to accept the withdrawal from the library board and to review that appointment.
So I need a motion. Councillor Coleman, seconded by Councillor Bell. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Thank you for your time on the library board. I know that you enjoyed it when you did.
Oh, absolutely.
Next, I need a motion to fill the vacancy.
Nomination.
Nomination. Councillor Ferrier.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Bell.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Pierce? Did you let your name stand? Are there any other names to come forward? Councillor Gatward?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Laferriere.
Is there a seconder for Councillor Gatward? Councillor House? All those, oh, you're going to let your name stand? Okay. Are there any other names coming forward for the library board? Seeing we have two that would let their name stand, I think we need to go to ballot.
So just to be clear, the process that we usually use from here, and I'll just assume we're going to have concurrence, so let me know if you have a problem with this. What we usually do is we would send out, everybody will get a ballot. Because there's one spot open, you will put one name on, either Councillor Bell or Councillor Laferriere. Upon conclusion, we'll gather the ballots, and then the CAO and I will review them and let council know who was selected. Following that, what we still need, though, is an open session motion to appoint the person. That vote, it has to be done in open session, so there will be an open session vote following the review of the ballots. Thank you.
Point of order? They don't have to spell a name properly, do they? I might lose if they do.
It's when they ask for two pieces of paper. We're going to collect the ballots now?
I'm also named Mark with a K. If you win this, I'll just run on Ward 3 next time. Yeah, there we go. Alternate, flip on the border.
Redefine the boundary.
Yeah, that's right. Downtown and just.
We're going to have to redefine the boundary. It's three of us in the mayor, I think.
On the election committee? Yeah.
It's just three in the mayor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We should do it.
I'm having fun. We're stuck to have it.
We have a new member.
The results are Councillor Laferriere is the member appointed by the ballots.
Congratulations. Thank you. Councillor Pierce?
Move to destroy the ballots?
Seconder? Councillor Bell? All those in favor?
I can also get a motion to appoint Councillor Laferriere to the library board.
Yeah. Councillor Wheat? Thank you. And Councillor Howes? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Enjoy your time on the board. Councillor, what do we have next? Councillor Gatward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. There is a joint committee that we have with the City of Brantford, and it is called the Impaired and Distracted Driving Committee. And I am thinking that this may be a good time to step down from that committee. I have served on that committee for a number of years, and just so members around the table know, that committee meets on the second Thursday at 11:45 at City Hall.
So you're stepping down from that committee?
Pardon?
You're stepping down from that committee?
Yes.
I need a motion to accept Councillor Gatward's resignation. Councillor Wheat, seconded by Councillor Laferriere. Any discussion? I wouldn't think so. All those in favor? Thank you for doing as much as you've done there. Is there anyone that wants to sit on that committee? It's something we never thought about, so maybe we can defer the appointment to that committee to another meeting. Councillor Miller?
Well, I didn't want to raise my hand the same time everyone else did, but I will volunteer for that committee.
Nominate David.
Okay, we have a nomination, Councillor Chambers and Councillor Pierce. You'll let your name stand, obviously. Any other names coming forward? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Anything else? Councillor House?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Given that we're entering into a new contract with the OPP, I believe it would be timely, and I move that the Police Services Board Council appointment be amended.
Okay, I need a seconder for that. Councillor Bell? Any discussion on that? Councillor Gatward?
Why are we not opening nominations
We can do that.
as we did the other, committees?
Okay, I'm going to give it back to the clerk.
Once we've passed the motion to review that appointment, then we will open up for nominations.
So-
Okay.
So we've made the motion to review it, and we have a seconder. All those in favor to review it
I'd like a recorded vote, please,
for,
for Councillor Howe's motion.
okay, we'll call a recorded vote. All those in favor to review it? Opposed? Okay. Okay, next. We're reviewing the appointment of, pardon me? Now we need nominations. Councillor Howes.
I would like to nominate Councillor Pierce for the position.
Seconded by Councillor Bell. Will you let your name stand, Councillor Pierce? Any other names coming forward? Councillor Miller?
I'll nominate Councillor Gatward.
Councillor Gatward, looking for a seconder. Councillor Wheat? You'll let your name stand, Councillor Gatward?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. And if I might speak to it?
Sure. Oh, Councillor Chambers. Are there any more nominations? Councillor Chambers? I already said it.
Really? I can clarify.
He's appointed.
So under the Police Services Act, the current act, the mayor is specifically listed, and then council has one more appointment.
Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you. Thank you. But I'm already there and I don't get paid. Any other names coming forward? Seeing none, motion to close the nominations. Councillor Coleman, seconded by Councillor Bell. So we're going to go to ballots again.
Thank you.
I didn't get a chance to speak to it. but-
Pressure of democracy.
It's pretty bad when you're wishing for elevator music. Councillor Miller.
I was wondering if I could ask a quick question while they're counting. You sit on the Physician Recruitment Committee,
Yes,
but I don't recall seeing the minutes from that committee.
we met this morning.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, we met with the Health Hub this morning. The recruitment minutes, they should be there.
I was approached by Councillor Utley from the city, and he expressed a great desire for the county to continue to help fund that effort. And we, of course, it didn't come up with budget, but I was just wondering if we might, I'm just wondering where things stand with that committee in the county.
Well, we have met, and we haven't really talked about money yet. It's one of those things that I don't know that the city and the county can agree on the percentages of the amounts, just because we're not sure of who's going to use what services right now. And because of our health hub and because of other things that we have going on in the county, I just don't think it's clear yet what percentage we should be paying for the recruitment of, this is the thing that John Bradford's doing.
Yes.
Yes, and so he spoke to me about it last week, and he wants to know that we're obviously still involved with the recruitment of the doctors, but I don't think the percentage is what we're coming to an agreement on yet. The city thinks that we're not paying enough, and it's hard for us to come up with a formula as to what percentage we should be paying when we don't really know what we're asking for.
Right.
So it's sort of up in the air, but the minutes should be somewhere, though. We're talking about the minutes for the doctor recruitment.
Physician Recruitment Committee.
Yeah.
I don't ever recall seeing minutes from those meetings.
I don't either. I'm not sure who's minuting them, but I can look into that.
Mr. Bradley?
I think we're out of order in this discussion.
Oh, I just brought it up because you guys were busy counting, so we can continue this. Well, it's up to you,
Okay,
but later.
we'll find out where the minutes are. Thank you.
So the results of the ballots were for Councillor Pierce to be the appointee to the Police Services Board. So now we'll need a motion to destroy the ballots and a motion to appoint Councillor Pierce.
So move to destroy.
Seconded by Councilor Ferrier. Destroy the ballots. All those in favor? And now I need a motion to appoint Councillor Pierce to the Police Services Board. Councillor Howes, Councillor by Councillor Wheat, seconded by Councillor Wheat. Any discussion? Councillor Gatward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't get a chance to speak before, so I will speak now. I have learned a lot in the last number of years on the Police Services Board, and it's very unfortunate now that we're going to have 4 new members on the board. I hope you're ready to assume the chair. And my question to the clerk is, does this take effect in January or now?
Because our bylaw is set up that there's no amending bylaw needed, it is by resolution of council, so unless there's some direction otherwise, it would be immediately, unless council wants to make an amendment to have it effective another date.
Okay, thank you for that. So Councillor Pierce, the next meeting is tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock.
And at that point, then Jennifer Haley will be in the chair. She's our vice chair. And so when you come tomorrow, she'll be chairing the meeting. Councillor House?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, given the number of years of service that Councillor Gatward has had involved in Police Services Board and the detachment, I would, and I'm not quite sure the mechanics of this, but I'd like to recommend that we have Councillor Gatward very involved in the grand opening of the OPP building.
Yeah, she sits on the detachment committee.
Okay, so that's
So
fair.
she will be coming.
Thank you.
You're not going to step down from the detachment committee?
No.
That's good. Thank you for not stepping down.
So we don't have a vote yet on that.
We need a vote to have Councillor Pierce become a member of the Police Services Board. So Councillor Howes, you made the motion.
Wait a second.
Councillor Wheat seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Gatward, for all your hard work on the police services. You were there as long as I was, and we fought a brave fight, and we won, so. Anything else for number 9? Number 10, information reports. Communications.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Are we going to appoint the additional member of council to the Biggers Lane Landfill Liaison Committee?
Yeah, we need a motion to do that. It was approved, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we need nominations.
Oh, we need nominations, sorry. Nominations?
I'll nominate Councillor Miller.
You let your name stand? Councillor Miller?
Yeah, unless there's no other nominations, I will, yes.
Are there any other nominations? Councillor Wheat,
Question, who's already there?
who's there now?
Councillor Coleman is already on the committee.
I've had one meeting in the last 8 years, so it's pressure, boys, I'm telling you.
If you're, being he's already there, I won't nominate him, he's already there.
So one meeting every 8 years is what we're... We need a seconder for Councillor. Yes, we do need a seconder. Councillor Ferrier. Any other questions? All those in favor? Please don't be late. Now we're at number 10. Information reports. There aren't any communications. In your package, you'll see a letter. We've met with the cemetery trustees for St. Paul's Cemetery to take it over. I don't need a resolution, just a motion to maybe refer it to staff, please. Councillor Coleman?
Refer to staff.
Thank you. Councillor Bell seconding that. Any other conversation about the cemetery? All those, Councillor Gatward?
We previously did a motion for the church, and I guess we're repeating that, are we?
This is for the cemetery.
Well, it doesn't say that. It says St. Paul's Church and Cemetery.
Well, the cemetery, or the church sits on the property of the cemetery.
Yeah,
The stones, the burial, there's plots right up to the church.
right. So this is the cemetery. Thank you
Yep.
for that clarification.
Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. City of Brantford Council appointment for the city-county liaison. I already sit on that with Mayor Davis. We're looking for another member from this. Yep.
So we do have members appointed to this task force. The task force was scheduled to end, I think, at the end of November. So the city's just looking to extend the mandate. There's no necessary change of any appointees at this time unless somebody wants to change. I believe it's Councillor Chambers and Councillor LaFerriere at this point.
So we're just extending it to March 31st. Mark?
There are three different things here. There's the through you, Mr. Mayor, the City County Liaison Committee, we're not talking about that. The Paramedic Services Committee, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the Joint City County Task Force?
Yes.
Okay, so just in terms of update, we are waiting for a meeting in January and just extending it to March. It's totally nothing unusual here. It's just a matter of process.
Okay. Should still have a vote? Do we need to vote?
Yes, we need to vote to extend the mandate.
Councillor Miller?
Yeah, so move that we extend the mandate and we receive the communications.
Councillor McAlpine seconded that. All those in favor? Thank you. Paramedic Services. No, that's the other one. No, I'm sorry. C is the one where we need to appoint someone.
Can I speak to this?
Yep, Councillor Ferrier.
So this came through Social Services, through you, Mr. Mayor. You do sit on it. I made a friendly amendment at Joint Social Services that a member of the county should also be on there, a member of the county council, because they have a member of their council sitting. They're actually going to have two members of their council sitting, so we need at least one. I would personally like to nominate Councillor Howes to sit.
You interested in being on that committee?
Yes.
Yeah, seconder, Councillor Bell. Anyone else interested in sitting on that committee at the city? Councillor Gatward?
I'm the Paramedic Services Committee.
No, we're on number C. It's for the social services, the Mayor's Housing Partnership Task Force.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Anyone else interested? Seeing none, all those in favor of Councillor Howes? Pardon? No, I have a seconder. Call the vote, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. D, just a motion to receive. Councillor Bell, Councillor Pierce, any comments, concerns? All those in favor? Thank you. E, Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada and Parks Canada, update on possible designation of the Bucket Centre. Just somebody to receive it as information. Councillor McAlpine? Councillor Howes? All those in favor? Thank you. Update, what's this one? Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, update on transforming and modernization of delivery of Ontario's building code services. Just a motion to receive as information. Anybody? Councillor Miller and Councillor Pierce. All those in favor? Thank you. 48 North, request for permission to run irrigation water lines from Grand River to 481 Highway 54. Anybody have anything? Oh, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will make a motion on this that we receive this and have it sent back to staff for a report and have it back to, hopefully have it back to Public Works Committee for the February meeting, giving them 2 cycles to deal with this, and that will give them time at 48 North to get their act together on knowing what they all need, and that will also give the residents time to discuss what they would like to see happen too, because they are concerned about noise and whatnot. Seeking a seconder, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Pierce, seconded. Question, Councillor House?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question on the process with this one. At what point does the GRCA get consulted in this process?
Supposed to be now.
Right, so right at the front end. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Gatward, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to add to the motion, but you didn't see my hand, so I'll make an amendment to that motion, and that we request 48 North to submit a drawing to the county so that staff can consider exactly the route that they wish to install this water pipe, because it's our road allowance that they want to put the pipe on, and we should know the exact location. We only have this letter, and we need more information so that staff can do a proper report to
Councillor Pierce?
council and to committee.
Yeah,
Councilor Pierce.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, I would second that motion, but I'd like to speak to the whole thing if I could.
Okay.
The original motion and this motion, I'm wondering if we're a little premature here, because I had Councillor Howes ask the question I did. To me, I don't think we should be making any decisions on this until we hear back from GRCA as to, number one, are they gonna allow them to pull that much water out of the river? There's no sense of us doing anything with this until we understand if that's gonna be allowed.
Councillor
Is
Gatward?
it MOE, is it?
Ultimately, it's up to the MOE and the permit to take water, and they have applied for that permit to take water, and the MOE, as we know, doesn't always act as quickly as we might, but once the permitting is all in place, we will have our staff report in place, and then we can consider this request.
So you're open to a friendly amendment, Councillor Coleman, with the drawing Councillor Gatward suggesting? Yeah? Everyone's clear on the motion? Yeah? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Number H is the Grand River Cabs, just a request to be consulted on any further amendments to the taxi bylaw. Just have someone. Councillor Miller?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to receive and refer his letter to Bylaw, who are looking at the taxi bylaw.
Yeah, seeking a seconder. Councillor Howes? Yeah? Any other conversation? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Miller?
Okay, going back to what we were discussing earlier before we were interrupted by the CAO and the clerk. No offense. And that goes back to all these committees. And I know, I'll take one example, Brant Rural Water Quality. And there's no direct link between that committee and Heather. So I always make sure Heather gets a copy of the minutes, so, and I ask her to circulate it. And I'm just wondering, and I'll use your example, Mr. Mayor, the Physician Recruitment Committee. What, and like I said, I've not seen any minutes from that meeting, and you say you guys meet, and I'm sure you do. I'm just wondering, what's the best approach? What's the best way we can make sure that we're, as a council, are all informed what the committees are up to?
Well, that's a funny committee that you're using as an example, because it piggybacks on the hospital fundraising and developing piece too. So the last meeting I actually had was at another event with just John Bradford, who came up to me and told me the concerns of the committee and stuff like that. So it's not that we meet very often, and it usually is piggybacked off a bigger meeting. So maybe those minutes are in another set of, those minutes are in another set of meeting minutes. So I'm not sure that it's always a meeting unto itself. And as I said, the last meeting I had with John Bradford was at another event, and it was just us talking at the back of the room about some concerns other members of that committee had. So I think maybe it's not as formal as you might think it is. So maybe the minutes are going to be harder than usual to track down. But I will work on that with Heather right after this meeting.
Okay, if I could just phrase that, I was just using that as an example, but
It's a bad
there's a lot of committees there.
Yeah.
And again, I would ask, how do we make sure, what's the best way, what's the best approach to make sure that all council is up to speed on what our various committees are doing?
Heather, do you want to speak to that?
Well, the ones between the city and the county, I know that sometimes things do fall through the cracks, but the city-county joint committees, we're supposed to be sharing our minutes back and forth all the time. In terms of some of the other agencies that aren't kind of like extended hand, like SCORE, I don't necessarily get the minutes from that. GRCA, I usually get some meeting notes. Long Point, it's kind of at the request of their secretaries. But we let the mayor and I look at it, and we'll see if we can come up with a process to kind of ask these groups to get us the information they can. I know some of them, like I think physician recruitment might actually be kind of a confidential thing, so I don't know that those are even public information, but we can start working through some of those.
And just, I'll say, and I understand some of them are Chamber of Commerce, those minutes are not open for the public. SWIFT, almost everything they do is in camera, I don't know why, and I'm sure there's a couple others, but yeah, those ones that we can know that the public should know, I'd like to see us circulated on them.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Gatward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And while we're on this topic, social services is a large budget that we pay for, and we didn't have any presentation this year at all at budget. So we also have not been receiving the minutes, and I believe that in the past, Councillor Miller asked for those minutes. I don't know why they're not being forwarded to our clerk, but I would ask that they be forwarded because we need to know what's happening at social services. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather has it on her list. Any other questions? Councillor LaFerriere?
Just a comment to that. There's a staffing issue is the reason why we didn't receive a briefing. There's somebody on a emergency leave from social services. Also, all those minutes are available on the city's website as well. So I can, if you need any, just shoot me an email and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
I would prefer to receive them from the clerk.
Okay, thank you. It's on the list. Any other questions? Resolutions? Other business? In camera. Councillor Wheat.
Moved by myself and seconded by Member Coleman. Councillor Coleman, County Brant Council, convene in camera to discuss a proposed acquisition of land.
Thank you.
By the municipality, corporate development committee, and camera report. Confidential. First litigation matter, first an acquisition of land by the municipality to the public works.
Thank you. We're now in camera.
That the CDC in-camera confidential report of December 9th be approved.
Any questions? All those in favor? Okay. Does someone want to go out and get Mr. Brown? He's probably standing outside those doors. Let him know that, unless he's gone, he might be gone. Text him. We've done that before where we've left people in different rooms. See? There we go. Number 16, we're going to do the bylaws. Councillor Bell.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wheat, that the following bylaws, being number 167-19 through to 177-19, be now read for a first time.
All those in favor? Councillor Bell.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wheat, that the following bylaws, that's bylaws 167-19 through bylaw number 177-19, be now read for a second time, and all clauses and preambles be adopted.
Are there any questions of Councillor Bell? Anything you want separated? I guess it's too late. No, seeing none, all those in favor? Third time?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wheat, that the following bylaws, number 167-19 through 177-19, be now read a third time, passed, signed and sealed.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next meeting is Tuesday, January the 28th. Next year. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Not till next year.
Motion to adjourn. Councillor Pierce. Councillor Coleman.